Today, we have with us one of the more inspirational and life-changing men I have ever had the pleasure of being in the same room with. He is the former co-CEO of one of the nation's larger insurance intermediaries, a man whose life mantras seem to be that of service to others is the rent you pay for your room here on earth, and we can't help everyone, but everyone can help someone, uttered by the iconic figures Muhammad Ali and Ronald Reagan. Also a partner in the award-winning Del Valle Productions with his equally as amazing writer, actress, producer, director, and wife, Elaine Del Valle, and giving his philanthropic endeavors, such as being the co-founder and voluntary CEO of the Ascent School for Autism and inductee of the Long Island Volunteer Hall of Fame, namely my dear friend, Al Eskanazy. Al, thanks so much for allowing us into your home overlooking the beautiful waters of Miami. And as we aptly get to hear your thoughts on the rising and not so rising tide of life, business, and the world as you see it.
It's my pleasure to be with you, Larry, and I don't know if I could live up to those statements.
Interests and talents can turn into careers. Those words were spoken by a champion for and a person who has autism, namely the unbelievably groundbreaking Temple Grandin. So that said, Al, back in the day, how did you turn your interests and talents into your career?
Well, I guess I get side of what was important regardless of the environment and economic reality, regardless of whatever other issues there are in life distracting you. One must always keep track of their economic reality, because without that, there's no other aspect of life you will be successful at, because you'll always be struggling for your economics.
So there may be a few younger people out there listening now who may not realize that Walt Disney was actually, in fact, a person. But when he was speaking about a vision he had called Disneyland, he said, you can design and create and build the most wonderful place in the world, but it takes people to make that dream. So when it came to how you built the insurance wholesaler, the Morstan agency that you sold roughly 3 years ago, how did Walt Disney's words apply to how you built Morstan?
Well, Walt was correct and continues to be correct. He's 100% correct then and 100% correct now. Understand the leader is simply a visionary. To execute, one needs an army of people, equally focused and must feel appreciated, and that they're part of the goal and the part of the team, and that they're not being bossed, but they're being led.
They work with you, not for you, helps quite a bit.
That's a stage I never accepted somebody saying, good morning, boss. I'm not your boss. I'm your partner, I'm your leader.
Exactly. So when it comes to Gen Zers and millennials, what are your thoughts on the words control your own destiny or someone else will by Jack Welch, who's the former CEO of General Electric?
I don't know how I could top that phraseology, because it happens to be true. Take responsibility for yourself, but take it at an early age. Forget the noise around you, forget the distractions around you. Set a goal for the long run and set your path for that goal. My personal opinion, which is a great concern to me, is that colleges and high schools are no longer teaching history and what it takes to get somewhere. I find that many people I come in contact with of a younger generation don't want to start at the bottom. They don't want to do the dishes. They want to be the owner, which is great as a goal, but how do you get to that goal?
Listen, you got to build the foundation. You have to start at the bottom. Song by Drake. But the bottom line is all these expressions, all these cliches that you hear along the way, like no pain, no gain. Corny as they are, they're true.
They started for some reason, and the reason is the truism.
Exactly. And somebody smarter than we did said it. So, certain curse words aside, one of our guests once said that the two worst words in the English language are ought and should. So, Al, agree or disagree? And are there any other words that you truly dislike?
Well, I agree with that wholeheartedly, but the first two words that I disdain, and I see it and I hear it way too often now. I did not always hear it in my life growing up, but the word can't. And now on top of can't, which is a despicable word, despicable concept. We have children with autism in our school who do. The thing I hear most now is can't, but also now won't is in the lexicon. Won't, I will not. And I just don't get that concept. that will not be a success to a goal.
I remember you and I were working on a project related to fundraising in the school, and I came up with some line, as it related to won't. There are those who can and there are those who can't, but those who could and those who won't, no patience for.
If those who can don't, then who will?
Exactly. So kudos out to songs by Buster Poindexter and the band Foreigner. When trying to get in the head of the person sitting across from the negotiating table from you so that you can ascertain, what gets them hot, 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 Buster Poindexter and Cold as Ice, Foreigner, are there any pearls of wisdom that you can share with us? Ask a different way. What's your negotiating style?
They're not pearls of wisdom. I don't believe they're a style either. I think the basic common sense. The art of listening. Listen more than you speak. You'll understand everything there is to understand about the other man's mind and where he's trying to take you and where you want him to take you so that you can understand his goal and how to get there. Put yourself into the mind of the other guy. Find a position that is workable for both of you, because if it's workable for one, it's not happening. Both have to come out with a win and perhaps a loss or a minimized win.
Yeah, I call it the happy, sad compromise.
Yes.
So as a follow-up to that, Al, Bruce Springsteen has a great song titled No Retreat, No Surrender. Is there any time that it's not good to have that mindset in the negotiation?
Both sides need to have a win, but negotiate fiercely as though your life depended on it or your prosperity depended on it, but don't approach it as a war.
So the great chef, author, and food visionary Anthony Bourdain, who sadly passed away last year, once said, "The most important thing I learned about anything really was as a dishwasher. I learned to show up on time, to show respect for the people I work for." So care to tell us, Al, why Anthony, what he said was so important?
Do you have 2 hours? Look, this generation, again, I say, they want to start mid-level or higher. And you never learn what it takes to get there if you don't start at the bottom. So, all I could say is be patient with yourself, set a goal, and give yourself the sane timeline to get there. Forget the noise around you. That's basically
Yeah,
my
listen, the
concept.
bottom line is, there's no timetable on any of this. Life is a marathon. It's not a sprint. And at the end of the day, listen, it's nice if you got 3 job offers and one was for 35, one was for 55, and one was for $75,000. But the one that was for 35, listen, you got to eat. So the bottom line is that the one for 35 is the one that is going to give you the best knowledge to help you succeed. Okay? If you can survive those first few years, as long as you have a roof over your head, so you could always go to mom and dad's if you have the ability to do so. The bottom line is you're going to make up that $20,000 difference thousands and thousands and thousands of times over if you sit there and you pick the job that's right.
And that's why I started for $10,500 back in 1973.
Yeah, it's like you do what you got to do. So back in the early 60s and 70s when we were growing up, Al, as you recall, we only had 13 channels to choose from. And one of the staples that was on was the 1930s show Our Gang, The Little Rascals. So in one episode, I don't know if you remember this, it was the soapbox derby. Stymie, as he's on the back of this go-kart going down the hill sideways, all of a sudden, I don't know if it was Spanky or Alfalfa, goes, "Hey, Stymie, where you going?" And Stymie replies back, "I don't know, but I'm on my way." So to give a bit of guidance and aspiring words to emerging business professionals, do you have any tips that you could help them from going sideways or even backwards in their career?
I'd say no. Most likely you will go sideways. Embrace it, learn from it, and use it. Use it to move you forward, always forward. Failure and disappointment is a tool. If you use it as a tool, you will get a tremendous amount of benefit out of it. If you fail to use it as a tool, you'll go into a cocoon. So use failure.
Oh, there's no doubt. It's funny. You basically gave the answer to my next question, and I was talking about Ellen DeGeneres, who said, "It is failure that gives you the proper perspective on success. When you take risks, you learn that there will be times when you succeed and that there'll be times when you fail, and both are equally important." You and Ellen, you should have your own show.
Well, as I say, failure needs to be embraced, and you learn from it. I found that muscle is not a tool. People must want to follow you and enjoy following you. And it has to be, again, as a leader.
No, absolutely. So, as I alluded to in my introduction about you, you're a champion for many causes, Al, including that of advocating for women's rights in a myriad of ways. So, in the context of the glass ceiling that many women face in the workplace, and with props out to Lionel Richie's song Dancing on the Ceiling, can you pass along any words that can help women in channeling the classic Dawes song, Break On Through to the Other Side?
I tell people, women, whatever it might be, that whoever I'm speaking to, that employers want you to succeed. They don't want you to fail. The tools are there to help you succeed. You just have to allow it to happen. Come in with no preconceived ideas or notions about prejudices or biases, and just go in, work hard, do the best you can do, and outwork everybody else. They want you to succeed.
No question about that. It's tough. Listen, it's like, and whether it's for men or women, it's, you need to invest in yourself.
Well, sometimes the investment is nothing more than diligence and responsibility. And those two aspects of some generations need to be shored up, if you will.
So The Who, the band The Who, had many classic songs. Among them, Won't Get Fooled Again. So any experiences in your career or in business that won't fool you again?
I'm almost always understood the devil I was going to face. I just didn't do it unless I understood all the angles and all the aspects that I could. So my strategy is simply to play it straight down the middle. No smoke, no mirrors, no angles. Take your lumps as they come. But those that I was up against that played the angles, well, if you know anything about angles, the shortest path to any distance is a straight line. They were wasting a lot of time while I was just playing it straight.
So on the Chris Farley show skit on Saturday Night Live back in the early 90s, Farley asked Paul McCartney whether it was true that the love you take is equal to the love you make. And McCartney replied that in his experiences, it's more a matter of the more you give, the more you get. So how does that apply to your passion for philanthropic work?
Yeah, again, if you have an hour or two, we can go through that whole thing. But the more you set the example of hard work, fairness, and honesty, the more people will be happy to follow you. Learn, become enthused. Ascent Family's painting a building that we constructed as an example. They painted a 13,000 square foot building with not one but two coats because they were enthusiastic, and they had people around them that became enthusiastic. So
yeah, my knees still hurt from laying tile. So about 15 years ago, Al and I, in relation to the Ascent School for Autism, we were working on a deal together where the mantra life, health, and safety ruled the day because a new Tanger outlet was being built, about 100 yards or so from the Ascent School. And it was a school that, changed my family's life. We have 4 sons, and some of you may know this, but, Ascent played a starring role in helping get my child back, namely Connor, who's unbelievable, well on his way to reaching his full potential. So, although I don't recall during these negotiations on this real estate deal the lines that Al came back at when people on the other side of the table took us for nicely stated idiots, Al showed me the art of how to say something like F you in a very nice way. And politely he said, these weren't the words, but what he said essentially was, although I'm a big believer in one day there being world peace, like your request, your dream will unfortunately never become a reality. So Al, that long-winded preface behind us, how do you try to make it an art form by telling people to go to hell, but in a nice and respectful way so it won't sour the relationship, won't kill the deal?
Well, I guess you just said it in an artsy way, but very, very truthful. Do not add erroneous facts. Speak the facts, speak the truth, and quite frankly, hit them between the eyes with everything you have, as long as it's professionally done. And at some point in time, if you have to raise your emotion, then raise your emotion. But you must always, always, always leave that door cracked so the other person can come through with their dignity and come back.
Sam Walton once said, we're all working together. That's the secret. Care to expand?
Well, that is certainly true. Again, it goes back to leadership or becoming a leader. And the way you do that is you just walk a straight path. I'm sorry I don't have the angles for you guys, but nothing will get you there faster than hard work and sincerity. because the other guy, the other team, the other individuals, your employees, whatever it might be, will always pick up a falsehood.
So let me ask you something. Forgetting about, the darker side of his nature, if you remember the character in Pulp Fiction, Harvey Keitel played Winston Wolfe. His mantra was, I solve problems. What do you think about that? How's that apply to you?
It's tough for me to get through the middle of the night. My wife has a saying that and she doesn't take me seriously by the light of the moon, because once that sun comes up, I put on the armor, get my lance, and I go slay dragons. I look for problems, and I look for problems, regrettably, more in the middle of the night that never come true. But if you protect your downside by always anticipating what the worst case scenario can be, and you understand that and you protect that, you solve problems before they become a problem.
The one and only Marilyn Monroe once said, fear is stupid, so are regrets. So anything in life or business that you once feared out, such as making a mistake and now regret that you actually had that fear?
As I was saying, I believe in fear being a positive tool, not a negative. Use it positively. Fear is what kept me up at night, but it also gave me solutions prior to problems coming about. So you're quoting Marilyn Monroe. I guess I have to quote Sinatra. And, regrets, I had a few, but then again, way too few to mention.
Oh, I like it. So with props out to the classic song by the legendary Bob Marley, In Business and or Life, please tell us, Al, how you have stirred it up.
I'm a positive confronter. Perhaps other people would say otherwise, but I believe myself to be a positive confronter. It may be a little Socratic, if you will.
Is that passion?
It's all about passion with me. All about passion. Unfortunately, because it's also my Achilles heel, but I'm too successful to question it as a regret. But, stir it up. I have 5 foundations I'm involved with. I run 3 of them, and there's lives on the line with the stuff that I do, literally lives on the line. Not to mention the day and age we are in as a society and as a world. So I could expound on this for 3 hours easily, but basically challenge people to tell you why they feel what they feel and what are the facts behind it, not the headline behind it.
So what has been among the wilder things you have done in life or business? Anything.
So I'm a kid born and raised in the Bronx for the first 18 years of my life. My wife was raised in Brownsville, Brooklyn. And, the ventures I have are everything from starting an insurance business, not knowing anything about it, to being one of the largest employers on Long Island and the largest general agency in the country, privately owned. And right down to, I've become in my retirement, I sold my business in June of 2016. And I became a Department of Criminal Justice detective doing animal cruelty investigations and whatever ensues after an investigation. So, you got the gambit of things that run in between everything. Take risks, but make sure you always contribute back. If you're not contributing, then you're a taker, you're taking. And the net result of that is there's no one contributing back if those who can don't.
In closing, Al, I want you to focus on the question asked by Randy Pausch, who back in 2007, when he knew he had less than a year to live, he was dying from pancreatic cancer. He gave to his students at Carnegie Mellon University one of the most moving and inspirational speeches I've ever heard in my lifetime, namely that of the last lecture. And the initial basis came from the question, if you knew you were going to die and could only give one last lecture, what would it be? So, Al, what would you impart to the world, life or career-wise, if you knew it was your last chance?
I'd say be passionate about family, accept the virtues of religion, hold sincere friends very close, love with all of your heart, take thoughtful risks, participate, don't merely be an observer. Understand policy detail, not headlines. Contribute to society, especially children and less fortunate, and love your wife like you can't even express.
I think we need a hug. Thank you, my friend. Appreciate you coming on today.
Very proud to be here. Thank you.